Hello everybody, let me share the screen, and before I start let me tell you that this will be a recorded episode due to the holiday of Shavuot, which occurs on this Friday, and Shavuot is a holiday that celebrates learning and transmission of knowledge, and that's why it's a good fit. So I'm sharing the screen here, go into the right place. I'm usually giving you the link, but in that case, I'm just showing you that. And as usual, we start with mathematics. Now, in that case, I chose the couple jokes from the same source by the genius mathematician whose name is Littlewood. And one of the jokes he shows is, by the way, I keep his spelling because he's British. So he says, schoolmaster who says, suppose X is the number of sheep in the problem. And pupil, what does he answer? He says, but sir, suppose X is not the number of sheep. So is that a good answer or no? And then he says, I ask Professor Wittgenstein. Now, Wittgenstein, some people say, he was a very special, very rare person. He was from Austria, but he taught at the same college where Littlewood was. And Wittgenstein is an interesting person in any case. One of the things that he did, he said, all your paradoxes are just paradoxes of language, not the paradoxes of essence. But most people just enjoy watching him and couldn't understand what he was saying. So Littlewood has a very special privilege of asking Professor Wittgenstein. And what did he ask? He said, was it not a philosophical joke, what that student said? And Ludwig Wittgenstein answered yes, that it was. Now, I'll give you an example. The famous paradox of a barber. Let us say you have a whole barrack of soldiers and a barber, and that barber saves the soldiers, but of course he only saves those soldiers that do not save themselves. Probably you heard that one. Okay, so a barber is assigned to a task of shaving those soldiers who do not save themselves. Does the barber save himself? Okay, so think of it. If he does save himself, then he is not a soldier who does not save himself. He should not be saving himself. On the other hand, if he does not save himself, then okay, he is a perfect soldier who does not save himself, and therefore he should save himself. That's a paradox according to Wittgenstein. The problem is not the essence of the joke, but it's the language. We'll leave it here, but if you have the answers, just send them to me. At least I will read it next time. And then he also mentions that Professor Bezikovich. Now, Professor Bezikovich is an interesting personality as well. He was Russian from a Jewish Karaite family, which is unbelievably interesting because Karaites were the people who dated back to like 3,000 years ago, and it still was a family that had a certain set of philosophical beliefs. So that was a brilliant mathematician. He lived in Russia, but he also taught at the same university where Professor Littlewood was teaching. So Littlewood often quotes his jokes, and one of them, he says, a mathematician's reputation rests on the number of bad proofs he has given. Bad proofs. And why is that? Because pioneer work is clumsy. In other words, a good mathematician, when he teaches something in class, he might just not think and give some bad proof because, in his own work, he would do something better. And when he invents new things, next time probably will be saying better. This time he said it like he said it. Okay, that's enough math to warm our brains up. The next is a little bit of the news. So I'm opening the news here, and the news are from Andrew Ng, and one of the things he says, an interesting thing is that United States is going to evaluate upcoming models. Now, it just said that it wouldn't, when just a week ago. And why did it say it wouldn't even touch laissez-faire, let everybody do whatever they want? Well, that's because Anthropic came up with such a model that scared at least some people. And now they want to evaluate the model. They came up with an interesting bunch of tests to verify that it's not too dangerous. Okay, that's of course here with the only little practical technologies. That is what interesting to us. So that's what we usually do. We don't go that far as what the governments do, but it is an interesting turn of events. Another thing that I want to show you is, okay, on the one hand, China says, no, we will not allow Facebook to buy a company called Manus. On the other hand, I'll tell you that Manus is interesting by itself. So therefore, I shall show you the screen. And so China said, no, the Meta cannot buy Manus. Who is Manus? That's a company that was founded in China by Chinese, but when it had to work internationally, it decided to move out. Where did it go? It got to not too far. Where was it? I forgot, but somewhere Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay. So let China block whatever they want. What is interesting, that's a new model. In one of our previous courses, it was mentioned. So let's go there for a second, at least there. This is Manus. And where is it? Well, let's find all of them. Manus AI, yeah, that's a good place. I tried to go there when I was looking at it. So what you do is log in, and you say, I'm logged in, and it tells you what it can do. So on, at first glance, that's just a regular design, but it's different. Where is it different? It's more agentic, and that's why Facebook wanted them. It's more into create slides and do the whole thing, do the research. People do it anyway. So by default, you can pay, I think, $20 a month. There are ways to try it, but at $20 a month, you can probably pay it for 1 month at least. You can say, just create my slides and the whole thing with everything. I would prefer, by the way, I personally would prefer to still work together, but build website, that's a different story. So build the whole thing and I don't care how you'll do it. Or develop desktop apps. So from beginning to end. In other words, it's one big thing, and that's how it is different from others because it's much more agentic. So there are dangers and problems there because it may just go the wrong way, but there are also advantages. That's what Manus says, and I think we really should put it on our next agenda. Really, we should. So here you are. I'm preparing this agenda for the next time, and right here, yeah, we'll put 29. There's no Shavuot on 29. It's only one day. And then we'll do our stuff. But one of our stuff will be Manus. Yeah, we have to. But meanwhile, and by the way, chat says that doing what I'm doing and that is free and all the other things, it just works with the same philosophy, it says. What does free do? It just looks at a big heap of data and makes sense of it. Well, it's like a big story. Maybe months will do it. Okay. But one thing that I wanted to show you today is this images and video generation with agent done by Google. Okay, let's go there. I think I am there. Yeah, I'm there. Okay. So I apologize. I'm not political correct, never. But obviously Google is promoting themselves. What can you say? So I will be dropping comments about that. But also very interesting. Honestly, I never touched, and that's why I'm always grateful to my audience who is forcing me to learn and to verify what is it going on in the world. So, Google starts. What is generative media? Well, generative media is not just text, but it is also images. Like here, images, video, audio, and music. Well, if so, these models, and here it's definitely a setup to praise Google. You can have different modalities, like one model, like just music, that's all I care about, or cross model. You can do the scope. For example, it can be specialized, just Renaissance paintings, or it can be more generic, all paintings, or paintings and music, or it can be very multi tasking. Okay, and that is what we're coming to, because of course Google's models are that. Okay, so what you can do is you can generate images, all images and videos, or text and images and videos, and okay, of course, that's Google does. So how you do it? First of all, again, the last emphasis that there is a Lyria, works with music, there is a Veo, works with video, and there is Gemini, and it works with everything. All right, now, no more praise of Google, but now let's talk about how that's done. So first of all, autoregressive is just a way to call it regular LLM. Autoregressive, instead of generating words, it generates the next piece of the image. So it will be an image, patches, audio frame, video tokens, but first it will look at what it has already generated, and then it will generate the next one. Well, that's exactly what the LLMs do. But diffusion is where you start from random noise. In other words, you just show the picture of nothing. And if you look at, for example, when I ask ChatGPT to do the pictures, it's obviously diffusion based because it starts from nothing. Very interesting philosophical. You can meditate on that, but it does start from white noise. Okay. So if you are doing this autoregressive, then it's still the same picture as what's the next token? What are the previous ones? Let's generate the next one. But what, of course, entices everybody is diffusion. And in diffusion, you start from that kind of noise, but then you go better and better because you know what you need to generate, a picture of sunset over the ocean. So that's what I'm doing, picture of sunset over the ocean. And as they end up saying, really you need both. So you need autoregressive diffusion. And of course, Gemini does that. So that's a new course. Now, I think you should really listen to the beginning of that. But since I didn't turn it on to show you the sound, I think I can do it. I think I can still do it. So I will stop share. I will share again. This time I share with the sound and I reveal you all my secrets. Okay. Now, what you need to do is in the way I always do things, it's the README file right here. README file takes you exactly to the course. So let's go to the course.
Welcome to AI Agents for Image and Video Generation, built in partnership with Google. Text is only one way humans communicate. Most of what we experience is through images, video, and audio. In this course, you build agents that produce images and videos for raw applications like building website assets and product demos. The user will describe what they want, provide a style guide, and the agent generates options, evaluates them, and iterates until the output passes a quality threshold. Guaranteeing an image from a prompt can seem straightforward, but building a system that consistently produces high-quality results at scale with many different images and perhaps videos is a different challenge entirely. Okay, everybody got that. So I'm stopping that video, and I'm thanking you guys. I'm closing that show for today, and I will meet you next time.